Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio. You are about to join a frequency that will open your mind, expand your heart, and activate your spirit. Thank you for joining Kelly Meehan, Spirit Baby Medium and Master Energy Therapist. Kelly believes in the power of the Spirit Baby. She speaks with babies in spirit before life, in the womb, and after life. She supports, teaches, and guides others to tune into the intuitive and mystical parts of life for greater wisdom. Join her in meeting your soul baby and build your connection and relationship with deep love and trust. Welcome to Spirit Baby Radio with your host, Spirit Baby Medium, Kelly.
Welcome to episode 70, September 27, 2019. Conversations with Spirit Baby, your soul guide to conception. What does Spirit Baby communication mean? How do you speak with your baby before life? What do you need to create an honest and loving relationship with baby energy and your soul's path? What does Spirit Baby say about your conception? I feel like this is a really important episode because 70 episodes back, I did speak about maybe like a Spirit Baby 101 or what does that mean? And now that I've been doing the, energy work, clairvoyant, clairsentient work for a very long time, but the baby world has been really deep, I'd say, for over 5 years now. And I'm meeting people all around the world. I actually joked the other day with a client. I said, I travel the world, but I really don't. I feel like I've been in countries I've never even heard of, supporting women, supporting their Spirit Baby connection. And what I've seen over this time, over these years, so many different relationships and bonded connections being formed, not just with the woman in the space of the womb, but also with partners, with male partners, with female partners. Specifically, those are the two areas I see when I see partnership, and how those paths are all so different. And I feel like if you asked me 5 years ago what Spirit Baby communication world was like, I have a very different interpretation than I do now. And a lot has to do with not just with other people's energies, but with my own energy. And so as I've experienced many deepening, suffering, traumatizing, awakening experiences, I opened myself up to whatever that next piece is. And anyone that's listening that is a Spirit Baby medium-ish person or a baby intuitive reader, you have to really develop your craft and connection. This is not some game or I'm just going to do some fun thing. It's a very vulnerable experience, and you have to know how to communicate with another person in this other realm and world and what that looks like, and how to integrate that into your own, earth words and experience. And there's definitely a craft and an art to it, and it's different for everybody. I've met some really amazing, gifted Spirit Baby communicators, and I've met some that aren't very gifted and very good at it and have, and that's where the whole ego thing comes in, which is fine. There's no judgment, but there is a path that's being forged and it's being created and that's being cultivated in a certain way. And I won't go too much into the Spirit Baby education, spiritual education, because there is some offerings in that, hopefully in 2020, coming back to offering more of maybe a course to kind of upgrade your own Spirit Baby abilities to, bring it to the fertility world, as well as apprenticeship, which is a more deeper awareness of what it means to really get into the work and really make your energy and work all around that. And so I've found over these years that my own conscious connection and what I see now is so different. And I want to share it every time the energies change, because in 5 years from now, my gosh, what is it going to be like in Spirit Baby world? Like, what is this world between worlds, and how will that look? I have no idea, but I'm curious and I'm open to see where it goes. So when I define what does Spirit Baby communication mean? It is communicating with your baby before life and sometimes after life. There's no separation when it comes to, yes, sometimes there's, not just conception into pregnancy, but there's miscarriage, termination, stillbirth, and even after after infancy, loss of life. And even in those, there's a spirit baby communication. I actually like to call babies that have crossed over and move into the other life or move into nirvana, heaven. I like to see that as that they may or may not come back. That's a whole other conversation. I get a lot of people asking, is my baby coming back when there's loss? Typically, along with miscarriage and termination, it's very common for the energy to be prepping and priming their parents to move back into conscious creation, but it's not always the path for everybody. And so, you'll hear me use the word spirit and soul at different times, and I do want to kind of even define that. I'm writing a book now. Thank you. And in the book, I'm going to go deeper into what I'm even saying a little bit. There's so much awareness around what does it mean, soul baby, what is a spirit baby? And when I see babies that have passed over, I like to call it, and these are like maybe infants that have, crossed over and they're not coming back into earth life at all. I call that, besides the afterlife of spirit baby, baby spirit instead of spirit baby. But that's my interpretation. There's no right or wrong way to interpret that. To me, it creates a different conscious energy around it. And so when I say soul, going back into, even back into religion, biblical times, the soul, the essence, the true part of people. I actually really love the word soul, and I'm not a religious person. I grew up in Catholicism, and I have a lot of respect for a lot of religions that don't push anything that's super negative and hurtful. I actually am curious about all kinds of religions, especially ones that honor the divine feminine, which I know is the whole other conversation, because there's, both male and female, and we can't have just one or the other. It doesn't make sense. And now there's other genders in between that, that is being in creation, and I'm not very schooled on a lot of that, but, honoring of all souls. And so the interpretation is different. Spirit baby, soul baby, baby spirit. And I went to a training 2 weeks ago, and someone said they felt like the soul and spirit were completely different things. And it's like, okay, that's fine. And they felt like the spirit was like the spirit of energy, like it had to do with, more of a maybe human connection, where the soul was this other ancient part of the person. And again, different interpretations. But when you're entering Spirit Baby Medium Kelly's world, by the way, that is my term, my trademark term. When you're entering into Spirit Baby Medium Kelly world, then this is the philosophy you're going to get. This is the insights you're going to learn about and connect with. And again, I always claim that it's within my own conscious philosophy and what I'm being shared, and how I'm really bringing that energy down to a level where we can understand it, where we can work with it, use it, and connect with it. And everybody's going to communicate with their baby differently. I really feel that babies communicate with their parents the most and highest and best. And why I say that is because, yes, I do connect with people's babies, and that is a part of the work that I do, but it's not all of the work that I do. I think people have different interpretations of what it means, that we're sitting and just talking to the baby for hours. That would be actually kind of boring, to be honest, because the babies don't have that much to say at times. Some do, some don't, because you're building a connection, a relationship with that energy. And really what the important part is, if you're in conception, is where is your energy in your body? Where is your partner's energy in their body, especially if you're doing this in partnership, that you're both conscious, energetic beings that are forming together to create space for family. And so knowing that your bonding relationship is very important. And I get to see glimpses and pieces of that when children want to share certain things. And of course, I see them as children. I don't see baby bubbles. Typically don't see lights, but sometimes they become very light-bodied. I tend to interpret the energy in more of a child from age, I'd say 3, 4, 5, even 6, sometimes 10 years old. And I see their soul personality, which is like usually what their clothes are, what their hair looks like, and just more of their energy. And so, I'm tuning in, I'm looking at that. And some people have more than one spirit baby with them. Sometimes there's many energies around them. And sometimes in a session, 1 or 2 will come, or 3 or 4. Or sometimes I like to just kind of organize and say, can we just have one energy that really wants the one that wants to be born? Because it makes it easier for me Because then it's like I'm in a room full of people and they all have their own personality. Can you imagine if you're in a room full of people and you're like, okay, what do you want to say? No, what do you want to say? What do you want to say? And so that takes a level of open effort on my part to see, okay, what are you saying? What's being shared? And there's some things that symbols and things like I don't know what this means. Sometimes most of the people do. They get a connection or they come back to it. And so maybe you're sitting in your own spirit baby awareness, your meditative space, and you're like, I don't know what baby's trying to tell me. That's okay. It's really important, I feel like, to be able to receive that and go, okay, let me just kind of sit with it. Let me journal with it. Let me just it's in the space. This is good. And that's how you're expanding and exercising your communication practice. It's, this is what I call it, like a spirit baby communication practice, because it's a part of your meditation. It may be separate than your other meditation for yourself or your partnership meditation, however that looks. And I always like to see, I check in with people, is how they communicate, I feel like is important. I ask babies, like, well, how do you communicate with your mom? How do you communicate with your dad? What does that look like? And most people feel really affirmed by it. So, I always think that good old meditation is the best. Of course, you're being quiet, you're changing your brain waves, you're touching between other worlds that are always there, but you're bringing the awareness there. And that's where baby's essence and truth is. They're in between those worlds. And if you can look through the very layers and fibers of that, it's not so far away. And so when I see people that are communicators, just building that relationship of conception, whether it's been a year, 2 years, 3, 5, 7 years, sometimes even longer, some people don't realize until later that there is that conscious baby connection. But I've seen people, I've seen people that are music, whether it's through instrument, whether it's through singing, that's their form of communication with their baby. Sometimes it's journaling, writing, channel journaling, dancing movement, that could be a big part of it too. That baby's energy really needs you to go there because you soften into that. There's an ease in your own self-awareness that then opens to that other spiritual realm. Or using nature, using the energy of the ocean, the lakes, the rivers. It's different for everybody, and that's the beauty of it. And I get to see that, and it's pretty amazing that there's not one way to connect. And of course, I feel like, again, meditation is great for everyone. And some people, it is about meditation, and it depends on where your inner abilities are. Are you more psychic? Are you more of a feeler? Are you more of an auditory person? Are you more of a sensor of things physically? It really depends on your own awareness, to your intuition, and to all these other spiritual gifts. And those are important. And yeah, it is going to be easier to communicate if you have a very highly psychic awareness, and if you're highly intuitive, or if you have a healer's quality to you. And I have to talk about that because this past week I've had 2 amazing energies come through with women, and they had very strong healer quality about them. And I was like, wow, okay, that was very interesting. And, I see all kinds of people, empaths, sensitives, psychics, cerebrals, visuals, intellectuals. And, recently I find it interesting because the healer is very much, the heart of my home, because I know what it's like to be that person, though I never call myself that. But I kind of know the kind of vibe of what that healer energy is about and what the purpose is around that. But and so having those different areas can be, it's going to help you accelerate your connection and communication. And if there's more of a struggle, that's okay too. I feel like a lot of people put pressure on themselves and wanting to know exactly, how to do it. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And everything is trial and error when we're communicating, even in our world, and even just how we're communicating with other people. Like, it's always a balance of receiving and giving in different ways. And so if you, are opening to conception, and maybe it's been a very rigorously intense journey, or maybe you're not sure where it's been. Maybe it's been disappointing and there's a sense of loss, whether it's physical or emotional. Having to look at all these pieces are really important. And that's what I do when I'm sitting through the phone lines with people privately. We're going deeper into I would say, more of an energetic counseling and spiritual experience besides just communicating with baby. I feel like that's really important. to go in that deeper journey, and like, what does that look like, and what is the next piece of that? That emotional spiritual support is so important on a conception journey, especially if you're going month after month by yourself and it feels traumatizing, it feels fearful, and then maybe you feel stuck. Because sometimes people do get stuck on this journey, like, where is that piece now that needs to loosen? And I always like to tell people, which is so true, is energy is always changing, and what part of our energies are needing to be changed and shifted around, and how do we do that, right? Through our words, through our thoughts, through our emotions, even through physical connections with our body. And so no matter where you are on your conception journey, you can always reactivate your spirit baby relationship and connection. Maybe it needs to be, reseasoned and just kind of, brought to a different conscious part of you. Because I do feel like when we can be very conscious and really connect with that part of us, we get to see more of who we are, even though there's going to always be mystery, It's like sometimes I feel like we're like dropped into this huge universe and there's so much we don't understand or really know. And sometimes that's just the truth of it. Do we have to really know everything? I don't know. I feel like one thing I wanted to talk about too here was the soul. Coming back a little bit to the soul as a gender, right? This is where it gets confusing because there is gender disappointment. That's like a real thing, whether it's in pregnancy, whether it's in conception. Usually it typically shows up in pregnancy. But even in conception, is this a boy, is this a girl, going back and forth? And I've gone back and forth with a lot of people because the soul in its truest form, the spirit in its truest form, is actually an embodiment of both genders. That's why it could be very tricky to see, like, okay, especially in conception. Pregnancy is a little different, especially if it's later, right? Because then the body, the organs are in formation, which still, some babies have very masculine souls that are girls, and some girls have very boy souls. And I know this with my second son. Everyone said he was a girl, and I really felt like I liked that they were saying girl, but it wasn't a reality because I remember laying sick on the couch, and I felt this burst of energy through me, and I was like, oh, it's a boy. But I was still in denial. I was like, well, maybe do I have to really listen to that? Because I was really opening my energy to this girl, so I get it. And then I was like, where's my girl? Like, I spoke to her. Where is she? What's happening? But people called him a girl until recently, and he's 3 years old because he has these beautiful long eyelashes, and really, he's a quarter Filipino. So he's got a little bit of these, like, sweet eyes, and they're blue, but now they're green. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, I could see why people vibed with him being more feminine, and there is this kind of gentleness about him. And his older brother is so much more a boy energy, and I really felt it in my womb. I was like, this is a boy, like, by far. It's like, this has got to be a boy. The energy was so intense, and he's like that in Earthworld. He's like very physical. Didn't really understand what he was saying until after age 4. He's 8.5 now, but he's very good physically. He actually was accelerated physically at a lot of things because he wasn't talking, and so they say they're different parts of the brain and body. And so, but he's very energetically connected as well, my older son, but he's not sensitive the way my younger son is. And it's interesting that in the womb space, you can feel it. It like emanates around you. How could it not? The soul body is so present with the inner expansiveness. And, if you get a little confused on the gender, that's okay. But I feel like, in my work, what I've seen, I feel like it's really important to feel whatever gender it is, whether it's a boy or a girl. And don't feel no gender. I almost feel like feeling no gender makes you feel like this is object. And that's not how you're cultivating a relationship, not with an object, right? And if you really look at science, which is really cool, everyone is born a girl. And in that girl, here, actually, I have a little definition. A human fetus does not develop its external sexual organs until 7 weeks after fertilization. The fetus appears to be sexually indifferent, looking neither like male or female. Over the next 5 weeks, the fetus begins producing hormones that cause its sex organs to grow into either male or female organs. That's one definition of saying, what's the science of it. But if you actually look at more of the science, they say that that everyone is born female. Like, they have a uterus and ovaries, and what happens is they begin to fold over and move down. So the ovaries become the testes, and the rest of the body becomes, the clitoris becomes the penis, and the body kind of folds over into then becoming male. And then they talk about this seam that's between the rectum and the testes, which is what this, they're saying this is where it seals in and becomes then male. And it's so interesting because I have boys. So I'm like, yeah, I've seen that seam. I'm like, are they going to rip it in half? What is that? But it's just really quite profound to connect with that level of like, oh, wow. Like, so for all these weeks, so everyone's born female, but then you have 7 weeks of this kind of unknown energy really that's happening. You know, it's like, oh, will this baby then form into a female or a male? And what's that look like? And then some people will say, well, what if I ask the soul to come? I really want a girl. I really want a boy. You could try to do that. I don't tell people not to, but I actually don't work with people if they are going, well, I want this girl to come and you have to make me do it, or I don't know. I'm like, that's just weird to me. You know, I'm not going to, I don't know how spirit world is like. We can't control spirit world. It's like there's something else happening. It's kind of like when babies pass over, like I need to have my baby back, of course. That's the deepest heart desire for a lot of men and women, but it's just not the truth. And that's a whole other podcast, because I feel like there's more to that conversation of, well, you know, how to speak to baby on that level and go there and look at it. And maybe that's something I'll definitely do that in the future, because that's a very common question I'm asked quite often, and maybe to sit and go deeper with it and even be of support to others. Like, how can you see what your baby soul plan is? And that's a hard one. But so, you know, gender. So when you're in conception, go between boy and girl, go back and forth, play around with the energies. It doesn't really matter. A spirit is a spirit, a soul is a soul. They're a combination of both energies. And so, you know, again, be curious with it. Be, you know, joyful about it. And, you know, some people say, well, what about like destinies or agreements or contracts? I'm not really sure about all that, to be honest. Some people say, well, they felt like from the age of 10 years old they were contracted, but it, you know, is that more of a destiny, a fantasy, a wish, a desire? Because the New Age movement, I don't know if it's called a movement, but I call the New Age a lot of times the old age, because there's a lot of old ideas of things, and I don't know if they're right or if they're wrong. I just don't want to hold an intended idea that may not resonate with my own consciousness. Everybody's in such different places. And so there's so much different conversations that, you know, if you want to use the word agreements or contracts, you can, you know, and I've taken people in meditations where we've signed a new contract, whatever. You know, it's more of a renewal, a kind of a new path to creation, to see how you can shift around energies. And so, but I don't know if there's this hard truth to it. I don't know. And, you know, I will say I don't know, or I'm not sure, or let's just sit with things and see where they go, because I learn things all the time, every week from my clients. Even yesterday, I learned something really amazing, and I'm like, I've never seen this before. This is curious. I always tell people, go to Google, because I don't know. You know, good thing we have Google. Back in the day, I'm older, so I'd be like, get the encyclopedia out. Or ask somebody, ask the wise sage of the family, the intellect, and what this information is about. But, you know, that's kind of helpful. You know, I always say, like, look at many things, because, of course, you know, one, like, interpretation, as I read about, even the fertilization, like, oh, there's no male or female until 7 weeks. But, you know, a lot of the science says everyone's female. And so there's different interpretations for different things. And this is why the internet can also be kind of confusing. And this is why we come back to our intuition. Always bring it back to intuition. Intuition isn't wrong. What's wrong is people's fear, because they think that they're being intuitive. And so coming back to intuition, we have our forefathers back in the ancient days. Everybody was, you know, it was all about intuition, because you had to plant crops and, you know where the seasons were. You had to be very intuitive. But our unnatural world these days has shifted us out, and so now we're all trying to bring it back, which is really beautiful and amazing, but it's hard work. It's like there's this back and forth of like, it's going to be this way or that way. And there's this like, let's, go to the homestead and grow our foods and nurture our animals. And then there's the extreme of like, no, I'm going to, industrialize and live by the power plant. And it's like, it's wild. It's pretty wild times. And now that we have the internet, we get to see things that we haven't seen before around the world, which is very fear-provoking, it's very honest too. It's not that we've become more of a crazy society and global community. It's just that we actually get to see things now that we didn't really know was happening, and that's really hard. So, will your baby come into creation, and how does your own spirit baby communication practice continue to give to you? And what is your baby like? And so what you can do, which I feel like could be really fun, is sit in a meditative space. I always feel like it's important when you're in a meditative space to tune in to your body first. And I do this a lot with the clients, even with my workshops. Because where are you is really important. Once you can find where your energy is and you can breathe, and then where you feel that deepest part of yourself in really a relaxed place, then you invite baby's energy. And baby's energy can be invited in so many ways. I have a lot of creative meditations I've made throughout the years, and I'm surprised that I have more inside me. But I'm like, okay, I have a lot of creation energy in my space, so I'm very happy about that. And so I'm always bringing in kind of new ways to communicate and connect for others. And so, which is really fun when it's one individual, because then people get their own meditation based on their own energy fields and their own soul self. And, how baby kind of plays into that. And so you're in your meditative space, you're connecting with your body, you're feeling pretty good. And then you're opening up your energy really from the center of your heart space at first. And tuning into the heart, going into that space, and then feeling how your heart moves outward around your body. Because that is going to be your feelers, your ability to sense. And you're going to just receive what that is around you. And you're going to call in, hello, my daughter. Hello, my son. Hello, my baby spirit. I am here. I am ready. I have love for you. Whatever else you want to say. I feel like it's nice to create an intention that feels supportive. And then even if you have a prayer, a mantra, or anything else, some people have prayers they like to say. That's for their energy. And opening to that, which is really beautiful too. And then you're sitting, you're just being with baby's energy and just noticing any sensations and feelings. You may notice your mind gets very active, and that's okay too. And then you can even activate when you're really settled in the heart space and you're really connecting to that sensory part of that communication. You can then open up your inner psychic space, your visual space. And you can begin to receive energy visually and asking baby questions if you have any, and having a dialogue. Some people, feel like they ask questions to like the unknown. Begin to feel good about where your questions are going and how you're forming those so it doesn't feel so separate. And then begin to just experiment really with the way you communicate and connect. That's really the biggest part. Because there's not one way or this is the right way to do it. But this is a way you get to begin to understand it. There's no quick fix. There's no do this and it equals this. It's an experience. It's a developing relationship. That's what you're doing. And, again, I feel like I can't say it enough. It's being curious. You want to be curious to be able to receive. And then even if you're not sure what it means, that's really important. And you may want to journal that and reflect with it, or bring it to others. Bring it to others in their own psychic space that can hold that energy for you. So then you're like, so you feel like you have a process to it, that you feel like you can, experiment with what that looks like and what that feels like. It's very empowering. I'll tell you, it's very empowering. You should be heard, and you want to be heard. You want to be seen. You want to be received. And, many highly intuitive women that do come and see me, they find that they are heard and seen, like, this is what I thought, this is what I felt. And there's a good feeling about that. I know that for myself when I work with healers or work with other energy therapists, and I'm like, I know I have these feelings, and maybe I'm in crisis with something, I'm just trying to pull it all together. And having that dialogue and connection is really powerful, because then it opens your energy up. So then when you're relaxed, your energy opens up more. And then you get to feel like, okay, I can pay, oh, there goes my throat. Sorry about that. I've been dealing with a cough. It actually was doing pretty good this whole time, and then it just, you heard me disappear for a moment. It kind of went a little drippy in there. But, being seen, being heard, being vulnerable, and, nourishing that relationship within yourself, so then you are feeling empowered by your baby communication practice and really feeling the truth of it, not just some separation. And it's okay to have doubt. I'm not, you don't have to expect yourself to be like, okay, it has to be this way or there's no way and that's it. It's okay to have doubt and skepticism, but knowing where the quality of the energy goes. Is it going to be emphasized that you just suck and you're not intuitive and you're not aware? Like, of course not. That's not the purpose. You're building a relationship with your child, with your conception journey, even with partner. I mean, that's an important part too. I do talk about partnership from time to time, and I should probably do more podcasts about partnership, because there are a lot of people that come in conception to me that are currently in partnership. Some people have come in the past that are on a solo conception, is what I call it. Or, people are coming with what I call a creative conception, where they're needing to either use IVF or other interventions to just kind of change and prep and prime the physical, emotional, spiritual energy. But it can't all just be physical. We're not just physical beings, and that's where it gets tricky when you're using intervention. And there is a way to mindfully, heartfully move through the IVF experience and, move into conceiving your baby that way. But there's definitely different for everybody, and this is where intuition is so, so important. And connecting with baby, of course. It doesn't matter what kind of conception you've been, initiated into. And because, babies are coming in different ways, just like babies are born in different ways. Yes, babies are not just born vaginally. They're born with intervention. They're born with, they're born breech. They're born cesarean. So there's different, different mysterious agreements that we don't really understand why or how babies are born certain ways. And of course, we're always pushing back to the most gentle and natural, but that's just not the reality on many levels. And so even with, intervention, babies are born so many different ways. And I know there's people get nervous, like, what does that mean for the future? Who knows what that means for the future? That's a good question. Even how babies are born, like, how does that affect, their own consciousness in their body in this world? And I know there are some theories and ideas even around cesarean borns and, different immune responses, but what does that mean for generations and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so much mystery, there's so much unknown. And it's something to be open about and go, yeah, what does that mean? And it's, to create passion about certain things that call for you to become passionate about, but not to become obsessively fearful about. Like, some people will say, well, maybe I'm not meant to have a baby. Maybe maybe the world isn't, as chaotic, but I don't know if people realize the world has always been chaotic. That's this realm that hasn't changed, and I'm not sure if that will ever change, to be honest. But we all try our best, and we all are building our energy in certain ways to be of compassion, love, and kindness for who we are and for others. Of course, that's valuable, that's important. And that's what we're doing here. We're working to build a certain vibration in a space that's very dense. But we're doing it, and we're here. And so, I've had other people saying, yeah, like, well, if my baby really wanted to come, they would come, which is so interesting, because that's like saying, well, I want $1 million piles of money on my front door. Why isn't it here? It should come because I want it to come. Or oh, I want this job, but I'm never going to apply for it. That job should come and find me. And it's like, what does that mean? What kind of mental games do we play with ourselves, right? Because I know what people are saying. Well, there's a soul, but if that soul wants to come and connect with me, then they will. And there is a part of that, of course, that you are host. You are bowing down to this other being, that it's not just about you, that you are building a certain level of connection. And as I say, within conception and fertility stuff, there is an awakening happening, whether it's, it's always spiritual. I was going to say it could be very psychic as well, and other inner gifts that your child is wanting you to be a part of. And so and if you're in partnership, partner too. It's not a one-sided experience, and there is a lot of mystery. I've met really amazing couples that I feel like they should have been parents years ago, but it's not my say in their own soul's path, because they're really good people. There's really good people that you're like, they should have a lot of children because they have so much love and so much expansiveness to give around that. But there's all these other behind-the-scenes pieces that are just very unknown. But that's life. Life is full of the unknown, right? And so where there is creation, there is death, there is rebirth. And no matter where you are on your conception journey, see what kind of conversations want to be had with Spirit Baby Energy. If you're in partnership, get your partner involved in this connection of communication. Look at yourselves energetically and see how your soul, inside your own soul, there's a guide within you that's guiding your conception. And yes, it may have to be worked in a different way, but it's a part of you. And if you are calling, baby, you are like, where is my family? This is happening. You are showing up for it. You don't have to manifest it through your thoughts. You're emerging and manifesting it through your own inner heart space and your body. You're in it. You're in the space. You're building it. And this is why it's great to get, one-on-one support. It's great to join these spiritual programs. It's great to be in like-mindedness, or I like to call like-heartedness, with others that love Spirit Baby Energy. Even reading all the books. There's not that many books, but the books that are out there that talk about Spirit Baby Energy, that opens up your own consciousness as well. And then being with it, sitting in that intuitive space and just receiving it. And there's so many amazing stories I've heard with women where they were so scared. There's so much disappointment, so much fear in their conception, and things started shifting. Their energy started shifting, and after the surprise of even their medical environment, they had babies. There were babies born, and even second babies, third babies. And it's just fascinating where someone's being told no, and your body sucks, and then all of a sudden they're conceiving in such, I get to see the very interesting cases of people that come and they're like, what's happening? This is like, and I get to see some of them if they do the deeper work with me, I get to actually see them moving deeper and deeper, and then I see them conceive children and birth them into the world. It's quite amazing. But that may not be the path for some people. They may meant to be working in different ways, in different angles, and, always clearing energy to find that clarity and that next step forward, that next place that's just settled into what is calling them. And so, take your conversations to the next level, find and know your heart's truth, and, allow momentum always, and allow creation to be a part of all of who you are. I wish those that are in that deepest of struggle, that are looking for that next piece, that you find it, and I send you golden love and many blessings. Thank you for joining episode 70, Conversations with Spirit Baby, Your Soul Guide to Conception. If you like my podcast, please subscribe and leave reviews. And I also want to thank you for joining, and please check out my newest book. It's a journal, Sacred Communication, a Spirit Baby journal, and you can learn more about that at my website. Thank you.
This is Spirit Baby Radio. Thank you for joining Kelly in the energy of awareness, love, healing, and soul communication. Please join the next episode at www.soulbabycommunication.com.